The diner floated in the void between star systems, a gleaming chrome sanctuary for travelers who dared the dark between worlds. Roman had stopped counting the parsecs 3 weeks ago. Now he just counted the days until he could afford passage to anywhere that wasn't here. Autumn approached his booth with the coffee pot, her movements precise, almost mechanical. Roman had seen her every night for the past month, always the graveyard shift, always alone after the last shuttle departed. She was beautiful in that unsettling way some of the elder species were to perfect, to still, like a painting that occasionally remembered to breathe at a night. Her hands trembled. The coffee sloshed dangerously close to the rim as she poured. Roman caught her wrist instinctively, steadying the pot. Her skin was cold, impossibly cold, like touching the hull of a ship after atmospheric exit. "You okay?" he asked, Autumn's eyes violet. He noticed for the first time fixed on where his fingers touched her wrist. She didn't pull away. Instead, she laughed, a sound like breaking glass trying to be music. "I haven't been asked that in 100 years, she said. Roman released her wrist slowly. 200? She set the coffee pot down and slid into the booth across from him, uninvited. The diner was empty anyway. It always was at this hour. "You're human," she said. "It wasn't a question. Last time I checked. Then you should leave, tonight. There's a cargo hauler departing at 0400. They'll take on crew." Roman studied her face. The trembling had spread to her shoulders now, subtle but visible. "What are you?" "The thing your ancestors told stories about. The thing that hunted you in the dark before you learned to make fire." She smiled, and Roman saw the fangs elegant, curved, designed by evolution or engineering to pierce and drain. "Vampire, you'd call it. Though we prefer sanguivore. Sounds more civilized." He should have been afraid. Every human instinct screamed at him to run. But Roman had spent 5 years in the colony wars, had seen things that made vampires look tame. And there was something in Autumn's eyes that wasn't hunger, it was desperation. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're the first person in months to notice I was shaking." She held up her hands, watching them quiver like leaves in solar wind. "Do you know what happens to my kind when we go too long without feeding? You die. We wish we could die." Autumn's voice dropped to a whisper. "We lose control. The hunger takes over, and we become the monsters your species has always feared. I've been holding on for 6 weeks now. 6 weeks since the station had any suitable donors." Roman's coffee had gone cold. "Why not just feed? Surely someone, because I made a promise." The words burst from her with unexpected violence. Other diners would have looked, but there were no other diners. There never were. 300 years ago, when your kind first reached the stars, my people made a choice. We could be predators or we could be citizens. I chose citizenship. I chose to only feed on willing donors, with consent, with contracts. I chose to be better than my nature. She looked down at her trembling hands. "But this station is dying." Traffic dried up when the new hyperspace lane opened. The few humans who pass through, they're afraid. They've heard the stories, and I can't blame them. We're not exactly the cuddly aliens your people hope to find out here. Roman watched her fight for control, watched her spine straighten with visible effort. He thought about the colony wars, about the things he'd done in the name of survival, about the choices that kept him awake in the empty hours between jumps. What happens if you lose control? I kill someone, probably several someones, and then your Terran authority hunts me down and executes me, as they should, as I would deserve. She met his eyes. "That's why you need to leave, tonight, before I become the monster." The diner hummed around them, life support pushing recycled air through ancient vents. Somewhere in the kitchen, a synthesizer beeped, announcing food no one had ordered. Roman rolled up his sleeve. What are you doing?" Autumn's voice had gone sharp, dangerous, "Giving you a choice." He placed his arm on the table between them. "You said willing donors, consent. I'm consenting. You don't understand what you're offering. I understand you're trying not to hurt anyone. I understand you've been fighting your nature for 300 years, because you believe in something better. That's more human than half the actual humans I've met." He kept his arm steady on the table. "I've got 3 weeks before my next contract. I can spare the blood. And you need to not become a monster tonight." Autumn stared at his arm like it was a loaded weapon. "Why would you do this for a stranger?" For something that could kill you? Because someone once did something similar for me. Because maybe that's what it means to be human, not the biology, but the choice to help someone fighting, not to hurt others. Roman smiled grimly. Besides, I've been told I'm a terrible judge of character. The trembling in Autumn's hands had intensified. Roman could see the war playing out behind her violet eyes. Hunger versus honor. Nature versus choice. Finally, carefully, she reached across the table and took his hand in both of hers. If I do this, she said quietly, I need you to understand something. My kind, we don't just take blood. We share memories. You'll see things, feel things from my past. It's invasive, intimate, and I can't control what you'll see. Will it hurt? No, it will feel strange, but not painful. Roman nodded. Then I trust you. Autumn bent over his wrist, and Roman felt the pressure of her fangs, sharp but precise. A surgeon's cut rather than a beast's tear. Cold spread up his arm, but not unpleasant. And then the memories came. He saw her through her eyes, 300 years ago, when humanity first breached the light barrier. Saw her choosing to be different, to be better. Saw centuries of loneliness, of being the thing people feared in every port and station. Saw her sitting in this diner night after night, serving coffee to travelers who never quite met her eyes, never quite saw her as a person. Saw her trembling hands as she fought not to become the monster everyone expected. When Autumn pulled away, her hands were steady. The violet of her eyes had brightened, and some color had returned to her pale cheeks. She looked at Roman with something approaching awe. You really did that, she whispered. You really trusted me. Roman flexed his hand, testing. A small bandage had appeared on his wrist. She'd worked while he was lost in her memories. Told you. Terrible judge of character. For the first time since he'd met her, Autumn smiled without fear behind it. The cargo hauler at 0400. You should still make that. Maybe. Or maybe I'll stick around a few more weeks. Someone's got to make sure the diner doesn't get lonely. Roman picked up his cold coffee. Besides, you make terrible coffee. Someone needs to teach you proper brewing technique. Autumn laughed, and this time it sounded like music trying to be music. I've been making coffee for 300 years. Then you've been doing it wrong for 300 years. As Roman left the diner that night, he looked back to see Autumn at the window, her hands steady, her violet eyes bright. In the morning, he canceled his berth on the cargo hauler. Some monsters, he'd learned, were just people trying very hard not to be monsters. And sometimes the most human thing you could do was remind them they weren't alone in that fight. The diner wasn't much, but it was enough. And for the first time in months, neither of them trembled in the dark between the stars.